Good afternoon and welcome to Health Day. Welcome along to today's webinar entitled Good News from Hospitals in the Era of COVID-19. Your host today will be Ernie Mundell, Executive Editor of Health Day's very successful consumer newsfeed. My name is Sam Holmes. I'm going to kick the webinar off with a little introduction to Health Day for those of you who don't know us already. So Health Day, we are the world's leading syndicator of independent health news to internet sites and a leading creator of evidence-based health content, both to consumers and physicians. And it's important to note that we operate under the strictest editorial standards for health and medical news. And we have a team of award-winning journalists who cover the full spectrum of health and medical topics. And as you can see on the bottom of the slide, we're well respected within the industry and partnered with some of the leading health media names in the industry. So what do we do with the news stories which we produce? We mainly bundle them up into 4 different formats. The first of which is our consumer news feed for the general population. Secondly, to supplement the consumer news feed, we have a video feed called HealthDay TV, which takes one of the consumer news feed stories each day and translates it to video format. We also have a wellness library, which is a list of encyclopedic health and medical content. And finally, we have our physicians-facing newsfeed called Physicians Briefing, edited by Tina Brown. So I'd like to introduce you to some of our newest ventures. We haven't been idle during lockdown. We've been using the opportunity to embrace new technological formats. You can check out breaking news stories on our live blog. That's edited by Marianne Bodansky. And on alternate Fridays, Health Day journalist Mabel Jong interviews a leading health expert on topical health issues. We're also very social and very sociable at Health Day. We really value conversation with our peers, and you can find us on all of the usual social media platforms. So why are we here today? As I'm sure most of you will already know, health news feeds are particularly congested affairs. Lots of press releases coming in to news agencies, and this has been exacerbated in the age of COVID-19 with so many health stories vying for media space. So just how can you as a hospital communications professional see your press release get some traction as opposed to disappearing into the digital dustbin? And that's what we're here today to discuss. We want to make this a discussion, so if at any time you have questions or comments, please use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen and we'll get to your questions at the end of our presentation. So it gives me great pleasure today to introduce you to the man who really makes our consumer news feed come together, Ernie Mundell. And I'm not going to do any sort of half-hearted attempt to introduce Ernie. I think he can, he's perfectly capable of doing that himself. So over to you, Ernie.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank everyone who took time from what I know is a very busy day to join us on our webinar. Many of you I have worked with for years on a virtual basis, at least through emails going back probably a couple of decades. My story is that I started out as a freelance journalist. I was managing editor of Reuters Health Division for many years back in, oh God, the early 2000s. And then I joined HealthDay in about 2003, was managing editor for many years, and about 2 or 3 years ago, took over as executive editor. I guess that's pretty much my story. I know that crafting the perfect press release is not easy, and I've wondered over the years if people really understand what editors at news agencies are looking for. So that's sort of the purpose of this discussion today, so that our partnership can maybe even get more efficient and fluid going forward. And the great stories that are coming out of your hospitals end up being great stories for HealthDay as well. So I guess if we're talking about press releases, the number one tip, and this is head and shoulders above everything else, is timing. My problem is that I run a very busy news desk with a limited staff, and any advance time I get for a story helps. So if you have something that's embargoed for a week from now, for example, give it to me. Give me the heads up a week from now. We honor all embargoes. And that gives me a lot more time to give it to somebody. And it really raises the chance that your item will, in fact, become a story. If you give it to me the day of or the day before, oh, that's really terrible. And I might have to skip coverage or give it kind of short shrift, short item coverage. So that's number one. The key elements of a great press release. Okay, so number one, as Sam mentioned, we have really high standards here in terms of what goes out to the world from HealthDay. And number one on that list is it's got to be backed by science. I'm always making sure that studies have been published in a peer-reviewed journal, and the better the journal, obviously, the better for us as well. So the New England Journal of Medicine or JAMA, those are obviously the top. Minor journals that I've never really heard of, I'm a little more leery of, but I'm not saying that won't kill a story. There is one exception to this, and that would be COVID. Obviously, due to the urgency of the current situation, we understand that data on COVID is being rushed out ahead of peer review, and so we're setting that bar aside for the duration for COVID issues. If there is a published study, please do me the huge favor of attaching it in PDF form to the press release. This saves a really big step that often holds me back from assigning stuff as I'm waiting to get the PDF of the study from you. I can't start the assignment without it. The other thing too is national import. So I get it that there might be a certain new surgery or a new kind of drug protocol that's being tried at your hospital that's the first ever in Cincinnati or Los Angeles or wherever. Local firsts, for example, aren't going to do it for us because we have a national reach. If the surgery or the drug protocol you're using at the hospital is a first for the nation, by all means, let me know, because then it becomes more of a story. Topics. People probably think there's some topics that are sexier for our news desk than others. Not really true, because we have clients that want a wide range of stuff. And so we really do cover the waterfront in terms of medical stories, everything from sociology and psychology, right up to, you know, the nitty-gritty of genetics, cancer, whatever. Having said that, there are certain things that pop out at me. Obviously, anything to do with celebrities is great. Anything to do with kind of emotional issues, like, and I don't mean depression so much as just everyday how to be happy, how to, especially in this time, we're looking for more upbeat items to run. Anything about pets is like gold for our readers. So if you have a veterinary school attached to you, or have anything to do about dogs being used, you know, to help manage the emotions of people stricken with disease in your hospital, those kinds of pet stories people love them. Other stories are starting to gain traction, as I'm sure you know. The growth of telemedicine, for example, is being really accelerated because of the COVID crisis. So we're doing stories on that. The growth of artificial intelligence, pot and CBD, people can't get enough of those stories. Mindfulness, the microbiome, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Those are all great topics. Now, the way that I initially will first come across your press release is, of course, among the hundreds of emails that I receive every day. So the subject line of your email is crazily important. I'll read it quickly. If it doesn't tell me there's a really great, interesting story here, I might click the delete button. So please be aware that the subject header of your email line is really important. Length. People might think that a shorter press release is somehow better. It's not. Ideal is probably a full page length, and I'm looking for a lead graph that succinctly gives me the story in a couple sentences. I'm also looking for a short summation of the methodology so I can be clear that, it sort of holds water. Wonderful, grabby, lay-friendly quotes from a physician or a researcher are really important. It's like the enthusiasm of the doctor who's working with this particular issue leaps off the page, and it actually helps me visualize the finished story and also his or her voice as well. And then implications. If somewhere in there you could say, okay, this is an early trial, but maybe down the line it will do this, this, and this. That gives me the big picture, idea for why this research is important. The press release, again, a punchy headline and the focus paragraph. One thing that really sells the press release for me is patient voices. It's not actually very easy for people at news desks to find individual patients. You just can't walk out on the street and say, hey, do you know anybody with lung cancer? So if you supply me with a patient who's willing to tell his or her story to help other people, that is golden. And often, very often, I pick a story based on that alone, because I know that readers really connect with somebody that feels basically like them, like there before the grace of God go I. So, and please make sure that they are available to my reporters. So sometimes there'll be a patient voice, but then when my reporter reaches out to them later, suddenly they've disappeared, or maybe they don't want to give their name, address, a name, or where they live, or how old they are. So make sure that if you put that in the press release, they are in fact available, but it's a wonderful way to get your story out to the world. The language of a press release matters. I can't tell you how many dull as dishwater press releases I have to slog through every day. Please avoid medicalese. So it's a heart attack, it's not myocardial infarction. It's a treatment, it's not a modality. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. And that should be true in the quotes that doctors or researchers give you. Try and, when you're asking them for quotes, to make sure they're talking as if they were talking to your mom. That's how I always sort of gauged it. If my mom understood what I was telling her from a press release or a story, I figured most of the readership would. Visuals. These are super important as well, because a photo immediately brings reality to whatever's being talked about. I'd rather use a real world photo than a stock image. So if you're supplying photos of the treatment or device or whatever being used by a patient, that's gone in the story. And over the past couple of years, we've started to use videos more and more, embedding them right in the copy of the story. And a video is a wonderful tool, even if it's saying the same thing that the story is saying. It's just another way to get it across, and much more immediately. There is one caveat to this. I've sometimes had to say no to videos that are too much like an advertisement for the hospital. So if the video says in the middle of it somewhere, I could never have gotten this treatment anywhere but St. Joe's, or the Cleveland Clinic is the best in the world for this. I might have to say no to using the video, because of course we have many, many clients, many of whom are hospitals as well, and that just doesn't work. Expert commentary. So what I mean by this is sometimes you guys will send me a press release that isn't about breaking new data or the experience of somebody at your hospital. It's just simply an expert working at the hospital who holds forth on a particular topic. For example, like Dr. So-and-so says, here's how, if you're asthmatic, you can travel safer this summer. Or a nutritionist might talk about healthy holiday eating. We use these all the time as evergreens that we can just pop in anywhere that's needed in a news feed, and readers really love them. So please do send those as well. Okay, so the press release has happened. I've green-lighted the story, and my reporter is on track to report it. Please, it's so crucial that you respond in a timely and cooperative way with my reporter. 99% of you listening today, I know you do this anyway, but you would probably be surprised at the number of press releases that obviously somebody went to work, to a lot of work to produce. I then get radio silence when my reporter calls the PR person, or once they do get a hold of them, there's a lot of foot dragging. They can't get the materials to them, or somebody who was promised in the press release is suddenly unavailable, and whatever. That's enough sometimes to kill a story, because my reporters and myself are under such crazy deadlines. So I'm just saying, do be prepared to back up the press release with real action when our reporter calls. After the story is published, okay, so the story's gone out to the world. I'm really proud to say that I have assembled over the years such a great crack team of editors, copy editors and content editors, that our error rate is really low. And I don't think we have retracted a story in, I think I can say, years. Having said that, nobody's perfect, and typos will creep through. Maybe somebody's title has changed, whatever. If you see an error in a story that we put out, of course, reach out to us at editors@healthday.com. And if we agree, the change will be made immediately. I do reserve the right, though, that we don't make changes for certain things that sometimes people will ask for. That is, they didn't like the quotation that was used. Maybe the doctor could say this instead. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Or facts or figures suddenly are radically changed. The copy is going to stay the same. So we, of course, like most journalists, we reserve the right to keep things as they are as well. I'm now just going to show you a couple of press releases that I felt really worked. I'm not going to show you the whole press release, just maybe the top and then the story that came from it. This is one I got from Alana at UCLA, and right at the top it says, a young mom received a cancer diagnosis on Thanksgiving that changed her life. Okay, a young mom, a cancer diagnosis, life changed. I want to know about this woman. What happened to her? Is she okay? And so do my readers. And this turned out to be about a young woman who had never smoked, who ended up, unfortunately, getting a rare form of lung cancer. And full disclosure, she's doing fine now. But I really loved this because of the way the press release made her story come alive. And also, I'm just going to advance the slide. So there's the story we got from it. Notice the beautiful picture that they gave me. That was golden. In the same press release, there was also a bullet pointed a list of, I think, the symptoms and the treatment guidelines for lung cancer. So that had already also, by the way, done a lot of the work for my reporter. So I would say from a sort of data-driven way and an almost emotional way, that PR really worked for us. And I remember Alana being really responsive as well to myself and my reporters. So here's another one. This is from Craig at Vanderbilt. And he offered up actually 2 people whose lives had been changed because of a new treatment method for migraines. At the top, that talks about a woman named Hope Dyer, but they also offered up a second person, which I thought was pretty amazing. This gentleman, Sergeant Presley, who had terribly debilitating migraines, but again, the treatment really lessened them. And his story was very compelling. And so again, that quickly became a story for us. Beyond press releases. So HealthDay is always looking for experts to comment on just about everything. And so the fact that sometimes you guys send me emails offering up expert voices for any story that we might be putting out, that's been instrumental in our coverage over the years. So please keep doing that. In fact, you can even go one step further. I have some PR people who obviously are watching the various news feeds, and they'll see a breaking story, and out of the blue, I will get an unsolicited but beautiful quote from a doctor in that field, giving their comments on whatever breaking news has happened. So, you know, like a breast cancer study comes out, and somebody sends me the head of breast oncology at their hospital, like a 3-paragraph quote saying why this will change women's lives. I will use that because I'm desperate at that moment to find a live quote to pop into whatever breaking story we're running. So please, please keep that in mind if you want to get coverage for people at your institution. I think that's it. I'm really so happy that you guys joined today, and I'm hoping that what I have said helped in some way. I know it's probably old hat for many of you, but with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sam for Q&A.
Thank you, Ernie. I can certainly say that the attendees kept me on my toes watching the questions come in during your presentation. I've been scrambling to get them in order. If we don't answer your question today, I just want you to know that we really value your question, and we will attempt to answer it afterwards, possibly by email if you would like to leave your details, or if you would like to direct your question in future, by all means do send it to us, and we love engaging with our peers. We love discussions. Let's kick off with a question from Judy Finch. Ernie, we need to get our releases approved by faculty, and that is sometimes not on our timeline. Can we send you a pitch and follow up later with a release?
What a brilliant idea, Judy. Yes, the answer is yes, because at least I know it's on the horizon, and maybe I can, you know, get my troops in order, especially if it's an exciting enough story. Full disclosure, 1,000,000 years ago, I was a freelancer, and I actually wrote for New York City hospitals. I was a freelancer, and I did a lot of Weill Cornell's press releases, for example. So I totally get, believe me, the faculty approval scenario. So yes, and the answer is yes.
Thanks, Ernie. Second question. Let me just make sure that I'm getting this one right. The question is from John Lynch. Do you accept PR's press releases from hospitals regarding their own experiences through COVID-19 and their plans for returning to normal service in the future?
Yes, definitely. I'm trying to think that one through, because we do actually get, I've seen those types of PRs. If I have ignored them, I think it might be because again, I want to make sure that there's kind of national applicability to what's going on. So I'm trying to think, would I run that? I think I would. I definitely would run the more personal aspects of that. So, for example, if my reporter was given access, for example, to doctors in the ICU for a quick soundbite on how things have changed from at the beginning of the pandemic to now, and why their daily life, for example, has been made so much better by new protocols that are put in place. That could very easily become a story, I think, because I think people would connect to that notion of a very, very busy crew in a hospital working under heroic circumstances, and how sort of human ingenuity made things better. So yeah, I think that is something you guys should send. Okay.
Carol Wagner, I hope I've pronounced that right. I hope it's Wagner, not Wagner, asks, can I refer a medical professional for you to hold on file? So should you need expert opinion in the future?
Absolutely, please do it. I have a running list of experts that I literally hand to my reporters on every story, on every topic. And they would simply just join that list, and my reporter would probably reach out to you to interview them.
Thank you. Rasheen Neely asks, do you accept press releases from hospitals outside of the US?
Yes. I know you see me hesitating there. Yes, but I think I would work on a press release from, for example, a British hospital if there was some cutting edge treatment or therapy being tested there. In other words, anything that's a first anywhere in the world, I'm interested in. So now the nitty gritty of, for example, Manchester General Hospital's day-to-day probably is of less interest to an American audience, so I might not cover that. But certainly anything sort of more data-driven about new and breaking treatments protocols, I would definitely look at it. Yes.
Okay. Eileen Wallace asks, is there an ideal time of day or day of week to send you a release?
Mornings are really tough for me. It's just like any time between 9 and 12 is my hour. I'm not saying I won't look at it, I will, but you'll probably early afternoon ET is the best time to send me something. I want to say that if you send me something at midnight, I'll still end up looking at it if it's if the subject line is compelling enough. So I don't want anyone to think that there's a time of day where we simply don't look at stuff that's coming in.
Thanks, Ernie. Next question, and again, apologies if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. I'm going to blame my accent. This one is from Desiree Battaglia. And Desiree asks, what kind of topics are you seeing media interested in now that COVID news has slowed a bit?
Oh, so I think her name is Desiree, because I had a friend named Desiree.
Okay.
Now that COVID news has slowed a bit, I would generally say it's the same topics that were bubbling before. I think I mentioned them earlier. CBD, pot, medicinal pot or otherwise, telemedicine, AI, but also I just want to throw out there again, people are desperate for feel-good stories right now. So anything with, a young child who's beaten the odds against cancer, or I don't know, walking your dog adds 4 years to your life. Anything that is more about, to be quite frank, living than dying, I think readers are craving right now. And so, again, stories centered around real people experiencing sort of triumph over adversity. I really would love those stories right now.
Okay. Ben Kisner asks, how has HealthDay's experience been during COVID? How has it been for Ernie and his team?
Okay, so thank you, Ben. It's been crazy, and it was kind of, I will say, it was kind of unexpected. You know, like the rest of the world, COVID, at first crept up on us and then landed with a bang. And I was surprised how it pushed all other medical news off the headlines. And for a couple of months there, if you went and looked at health news on Google, it was top to bottom COVID. And because the COVID data doesn't need or can't have the time to pass peer review, studies came at us immediately without any embargoes. And that's always stressful and taxing, and I can't wait for that to end. On the other hand, after we got over the initial shock of it all, and it was a lot of work, it is a lot of work, I have to say that I was talking to my team the other day, and we kind of agreed that, not to sound too grandiose, but this is kind of what we were born for. I mean, to be a health news editor and journalist in this time is, you know, in the nursing home, I'll probably like look back fondly on all this. Maybe not right now, but later. So I think if you love the art of journalism, it's a great time to be a health journalist.
Okay. Andrew Allen asks, are there any stories of alternative medicines for COVID-19 making mainstream news?
Alternative medicine. I can't say that I've gotten press releases on it. And if what you mean by that is sort of homeopathy and CBD and the standard alternative medicines, no, I'm not getting much PR action on that front. I don't know whether it's just because there isn't the research being done or what, but again, I'm open to it if there's real data behind it, yes.
So that sort of leads into almost a duplication of that question, but I'll give it to you anyway. Jonathan Alcock in New York asks, are there any taboo or off-limits subjects flagged not for use in your newsfeed?
Oh,
I'm
dear.
not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's a good
I'm
question.
not sure what's meant.
My particular bent as an editor is that often I will pick something because it's weird or icky or potentially upsetting or whatever, because I know readers want it. So I'm scrambling to think of a good example, but you know, we've done stories on all kinds of disgusting habits that people have. Sex is always a great topic. I don't think there's any taboo topic. There's some sensitive topics. Abortion is a sensitive topic, and so we have to handle that, you know, obviously with kid gloves. And we typically only cover abortion in a legal sense. I don't think we've hardly ever done a story about the clinical procedure of abortion, for example. But no, human sexuality, toilet habits, all kinds of hideous stuff we will cover.
Okay. I'm glad you had to answer that, not me, Ernie. This question is a bit more about technology. Do you prefer video that's already edited into a package or a link to B-roll clips? I guess that's just a general question about video format in the press releases.
Okay, that's an easy one to answer. So we're not a TV station yet anyway. So we don't have an edit, like an edit suite for video. So no, definitely I can't use B-roll usually. I really love the prepackaged stuff if, again, it's not too branded.
Okay.
So when I say branded is what I meant before, where I said, you know, somewhere in the middle of the piece, somebody starts saying how special and wonderful this particular hospital is.
Thank you. I think, Ernie, that's about it for the questions. As always, when you invite people to ask questions, there's a question here, Sam, where did you get your tie? I'll tell a funny story about that. My wife suggested I should wear a tie today, and it's been so long in lockdown wearing sweatshirts and t-shirts that I almost forgot how to do the knot. And I was thinking about that earlier. And so I guess while we have slipped into t-shirts and sweatshirts, HealthDay, and I guess Ernie could vouch for this, HealthDay have been very busy during this time. And possibly one of the reasons that we decided to do this webinar today was we've really used the time to strengthen our relationships and communications channels with our peers. We really value feedback, we value discussions. We think nothing bad can come from communications. So that was really the driving force behind the webinar today. And on that note, I'd like to thank, quite startled at the attendees who showed up today. Thank you all very much for your interest. And again, Ernie, if you could advance the slide for me, please. For any other questions which we didn't get to today, you can direct them to the contacts listed on the slide. Tina Brown actually is managing editor of our professional facing newsfeed. So it's very much the same case for Tina, but she would be happy to answer any questions regarding press releases intended for a professional audience. Similarly, Marianne Bodansky, our custom content editor, her details are on the slide. And of course, our CEO, who is always open to discussion at any time, Andy Myers. And of course, myself, I take care of sales and marketing at HealthDay, and I am always available for conversations. So we'd love to hear from you. If we haven't answered your question today, we apologize. Time caught up with us, I guess. But we will follow up with an email to try and answer your questions. So I'd like to thank Ernie for his presentation today. Ernie was a little worried about having to do this, but I'm sure everyone will agree. He's a heck of a guy and did a great job. And I'd like to thank him for his time. And I'd like to thank all of the attendees for joining today, and keep an eye out for future webinars. Don't forget to check out our live interviews hosted by Mabel Jong on alternate Fridays, and check out our live blog, live.healthday.com, for breaking health news stories. And that's about it from Ernie and I today. We'd like to thank you all very much and talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.